So I'm Sinta Danu, and I'm a professional psychic and astrologer, and today we're going to be looking over the first quarter moon that's happening on July 13th. So this first quarter moon, it affects approximately a week, so from the first quarter moon to the full moon, that will be happening later in the month. And what we'll do is we'll first go over like the general reading for this quarter moon and kind of what it means for everyone. And then I'll go into kind of for each zodiac sign, how this is more likely to affect you specifically. And then I'm going to do a general tarot reading, which is just kind of for everyone who might see this live or the video later once it's posted on YouTube. And that's also for approximately that week. The tarot can be a little bit different and apply later as well. And then I'm going to do like a one card reading for each of the zodiac signs to get a little bit more specific advice for each zodiac. All right, so this is the first quarter moon that's happening on July 13th. So in about 3 days, it'll be this Saturday. And for anyone who's interested, Celebration is also doing their summer mini fair, which I will be at on the 13th, this Saturday. So if you're interested in getting a one-on-one reading in person, you can do it there on the 13th. There will also be free classes by all of the different readers that are going to be there today. I'm going to be doing my Using Astrology as a Spiritual Tool class. They're all about approximately 40 minutes to an hour long. So come by, check that out. But yeah, so that is the day that this quarter moon is actually happening. So this quarter moon, it's one quarter moons as usual are they're points of action, tension, because it's when the moon and the sun are square. It's the first square after the new moon. This is usually when you take action on your intentions that you set on the new moon. It might be also a point of like coming across your first challenge or issue or problem related to the intention that you set on the new moon. So that's something to keep in mind, is to think back to like July 5th. What was your intentions? Kind of what was going on then. And this is now the first challenge, the first steps and the actions that you can take to now support that intention, but also the problems that are arising that may be getting in the way of you actually fulfilling those intentions, right? So this quarter moon is in Libra. So a big issue here is going to be relationships. So this is going to be relationships with women specifically, or most likely maybe even relationships with a mother figure, because the moon is in Libra. So a lot of these issues are going to have to do with some kind of relationship, one-on-one relationship. And these can be any relationships, not just like romantic. These can be platonic. These can be familial, like family relationships. And it's really likely to be issues with women specifically, especially women that might be in your family, because the sun's also in Cancer, right? So you have the sun over here in Cancer, which Cancer is the mother, it's women, it's the family, it's our ancestry, it's our roots, it's our emotional foundation, and it's having this harsh square to the moon in Libra, which the moon is all of those things as well, but it's in Libra, which is about relationships, balance, fairness, making sure that things are, kind of equal, fair, balanced out, right? And so there's likely to be some kind of issue between, all of us are probably going to be having issues with specifically people that we live with, or women, or family relationships at this time that may in some way be getting in the way of what we're trying to accomplish, right? This is also really intensified by this opposition to Chiron in Aries over here. So you've got the moon in Libra opposite Chiron. This is creating a T square because it makes a giant T to the sun. So there's a lot of tension. And we had some of this in the new moon, I believe, as well. There's a lot of tension to our egos, how we, operate in the world, how we present ourselves, that image of being put together that everyone kind of puts on, especially as an adult, that is really in a state of wanting like security and safety and comfort, and it's being really squared, and just like all this tension is coming from our relationships and our deeper wounding, right? So that, you know, our egos might be kind of triggered at this time. Like, don't be surprised. It is still widely conjunct Venus. This is, some people wouldn't even consider it because it's 10 degrees out, so it is just really far from the sun at this point. So we're kind of starting to lose the effects of Venus, basically, which has made things a little bit more pleasant, a little bit nice, a little bit more about love and money and luxury and all these beautiful things. That's kind of starting to move on, and that influence is kind of ending, especially because we have Venus is also in this opposition to Pluto, which this is power struggles with Pluto, right? Pluto is power struggles, trauma, depth, all of these deeper, darker things, right? And it's somehow getting in the way of what we're trying to accomplish in our relationships with money and, you know, our material possessions, right, is really being affected by this, especially in, you know, with Venus moving into Leo. That's kind of nice because, you know, Venus in Leo is very fun, very fiery, very loyal, but also like, you know, big displays of love and affection, right? Very romantic, but also very fiery and passionate with Venus in Leo. But with this opposition to Pluto, our need for change and growth and progress, especially through like technology and innovation, is at odds with Venus. And Venus is going to have to give in to Pluto because Pluto is, you know, it takes a long time to move. Venus will move off, and Pluto will still be in this position. So Venus may be wanting us to have fun and romance and love and all of these things, but Pluto's like, but change, progress, transformation, ego deaths, you know, a lot of deeper stuff is happening that's kind of at odds with this. And it's in a little bit of a grand square with the moon and Chiron and all of this. It is really wide, of course, so it's not, you're not going to feel it quite as much, but there's definitely like a lot of tension between the things that we're wanting and desiring, and especially in love and money, especially having to do with romance and all these wonderful things and play, because that's what Venus in Leo likes to do. It wants to play, right? There's a lot of tension there with Pluto being like, hey, but we have to change, we have to grow, we have to evolve. And then the moon being like, well, I also need to make sure that my relationships are balanced and healthy and fair, right? So even though I want to be all lovey-dovey, like this is kind of, I want things to be fair. And then you also have all this wounding with Chiron that's like, oh, I'm really in a lot of pain because I've been in situations where things weren't fair or I felt unloved. And that might be triggered by a lot of this stuff that's coming up right now. So that's something to keep in mind with what we're seeing in the charts. Is likely there's going to be a lot of issues with relationships with women and our deep, deep wounding, right? So, tread lightly on the quarter moon. There's a lot going on. You also have this very intense aspect with Mars coming into conjunction with Uranus. So very fiery. I mean, Mars is passion, fire, drive, aggression. It can be violence. So there's likely to be some tension coming up. It's in a relatively supportive aspect to the other stuff that's going on. It is sextile the sun, so our egos, like, we can get a little bit of an ego boost in a positive way and get some like progress in things that kind of boost our ego. There's some opportunity with that because Mars is like action and Uranus is innovation and change. But it's also, this could be very explosive, right? This is explosive passions. This is explosive, you know, cases of like actual explosions or actual physical violence. just exploding out of nowhere, right? Because Uranus is very unexpected. It likes to break things, and it's very much sudden, unexpected events. And it's not usually always really positive with that, unfortunately. Uranus really makes me think of the Tower card in the tarot more than anything, and it's these sudden breakdowns of all the things that are out of alignment, so it can clear it away in order to bring forward things that are in alignment. And with Mars getting there, our instincts are really being triggered by this need for just like sudden release, right? And with this trine to Pluto, trines are usually easier, nicer aspects. Unfortunately, with Pluto, though, Pluto is a malefic. Pluto is our traumas, its power struggles, these really deeper, darker instincts, right? And with this trine to Mars and Uranus, we're looking at things happening suddenly when people are triggered. So this is kind of a little bit more of a time that you should be a little bit more cautious, because it's very likely that people will be triggered and then act out very aggressively and potentially like in explosive, violent tendencies, right, with what's going on with this alignment, unfortunately. So I would be a little bit more careful around the 13th, because our instincts are like on high alert a little bit. Like everyone's kind of on edge with this quarter moon, so just be careful, especially around those with anything in the fixed signs, really, because when Pluto and Venus that's caught up in this as at those early degrees, we've got Pluto at that first degree of Aquarius, so the first decan of Aquarius is very much affected by this. And then you've got Uranus and Mars at those last degrees of Taurus. So any fixed sign, basically, especially like early fixed sign and late fixed signs, are really going to be activated by this alignment, and they might not handle it well. Might not be a lot of fun. We're also looking at like the cardinal signs, the late cardinal signs might also be having some really intense issues with this alignment, because it's kind of caught up in this grand square. So there's a lot of tension and power struggles, especially between those late degree cardinal signs and those early degree fixed signs, which, I mean, when fixed signs and cardinal signs battle, it's not pretty. Because they're pretty intense. I mean, fixed signs are just like, they never get over anything. They hold grudges forever. And then cardinal signs really like to start things, and that's usually, and sometimes that can be like they start fights, and that's very possible with this alignment. So I would just be extra careful. There's likely to just be a lot of tension and aggression and kind of power struggles in relationships with what's going on in the stars. So this week might be a little bit harder, unfortunately, than last week, which is why we look at these things, so we can prepare, so we can be like, oh, does not look like a lot of fun. I'm going to be a little more cautious this week because the stars do not look like they're in my favor. I'm going to, be a little bit more gentle with people because people are agitated, right? So, something to keep in mind. What else we got going on? So that's the T-square. This is Pluto. And we also have Pluto as being trined by Black Moon Lilith, so that's also adding a little bit of rebellious feminine energy, this need to kind of like, I always think of Black Moon Lilith kind of as like the destroy the patriarchy vibes, because of the Lilith story. And with this it can be very much being in relationships, rebelling in relationships, especially maybe perhaps sexually, because things aren't fair, right? And people are upset about it. And so this is just adding to this like trine with Pluto and Uranus and Mars. So this need for rebelliousness, these power struggles could really get kind of explosive. I mean, it is thankfully kind of maybe being pulled towards Venus, which might help lighten this a little bit. Where even though we are feeling the need to rebel and we are feeling triggered and we're really upset and we want to get really angry and maybe even violent, there is a part of us that really also, like, what we really want is to be loved. Right? What we really want is that big love that all of us are looking for. So hopefully we'll be pulled more in that direction with this kind of making a little bit of a kite to Venus. And that might help ease this up a bit. Anything else? I mean, we've got this little bit of a finger of God. It's kind of wide to Saturn. So we are being pulled to be more disciplined, whether we want to or not, by our past lives, karma, soul contracts, as well as where our mind is. Because we're in a place of, like, we do want to play with Mercury in Leo, but this could also be wanting, you know, thinking about love and children and just enjoying life more. And so all of that is kind of pulling us towards more discipline in our lives, and that's pretty positive. Jupiter's moved up to this 10th degree and is trining very closely to the south node, so this is we're getting some luck and some benefit from our past lives, soul contracts, and things that relationships from the past right now are just really kind of coming through in a very positive, flowing, growth-oriented way. So that's really nice and supportive. We do have part of spirit, or a lot of spirit, part of fortune, opposite each other. So there is some tension here between, you know, our spiritual selves, the spiritual world, and the physical reality. It is squaring the ascendant-descendant in Colorado. So there is some tension between the spirit world and physical world in terms of, like, our, you know, identity, per se, as a state, and, like, our public or open enemies. There's some tension here for sure, which is a little unnerving. Not that necessarily something super horrible is going to happen here, specifically. I would be a little bit cautious, though, because Uranus and Mars are really close to the descendant, so this could be some kind of burst of violence from some sort of open enemy or on the public in some way, which is a little bit scary. It's not super, it's close, but it's not super close. We're looking at a 7 degree, so it's probably not in Colorado, especially not specifically the Springs, but somewhere around here there's probably going to be some kind of significant event that has to do with that Uranus-Mars conjunction, because it is very close to the ascendant, and where it is exact, there is most likely going to be some kind of a very intense problem, I would imagine, and that's kind of concerning. I'm not sure where exactly that would be, though. But other than that, I mean, we also have the Saturn is trining the Sun, even though it is retrograding back. There's some support, again, for our long-term goals and things that we're thinking about of that nature. So just keep in mind that, yeah, this week might be a little bit difficult, but this is still a good time to really work towards your goals, to overcome challenges and related to your intentions that you set around the new moon. Especially if you set intentions for, like, the next 6 months in regards to, you know, what you want to complete or finish by the end of the year. You know, there's still a lot of access to discipline and strength from Saturn. So, you know, keep going. Like, you got this. Like, this is a long-term thing. It's going to take some time. And the sooner you accept that, the easier it's going to be. But it will be most likely a little bit of a challenging week, which might make this a good time to come get a reading. If you are interested in going to Celebration and getting a one-on-one reading, either from me or one of the other readers, there will be several readers there that day. But, you know, might be a challenging week, so you might want to get a reading just to kind of see where you're at and see what you kind of might need help with yourself specifically. But yeah, something to keep in mind. All right, let's go through the Zodiac real quick. So we got Aries. So this is very heavily focused on relationships with Aries, because we got Chiron in the first house. So this wounding is very personal, very deep, probably related to a sense of identity of self, right? And your own personal needs, being opposed by the moon in Libra, which is your partner and potentially a partner that you live with or that is female. And there's some struggle, some tension there, right? And then it's also squaring to the 4th house, which would definitely be issues with someone that you live with. That could also be a father figure or a husband that you live with, but definitely family relationships, these one-on-one relationships and these family relationships are really going to be the struggle for Aries. And we also got Saturn going through the 12th, so might still be isolating here. Mars through the 2nd, so you're still working towards like income and things, right? Motivation for that. So for Taurus though, we've got the moon in the 6th house, and then we've got the sun in the 3rd house, and we've got 6th, 3rd to 12th. Okay. So with that, we're looking at Chiron is going to be in the 12th. So this is like, with Taurus, there's some deep wounding. Like, not only like, with Aries, it's more sense of self, right? With Taurus, we're looking at, this is deep in your subconscious. You might have buried this. This may be repressed memories, but this is likely some like pretty deep trauma that may be being triggered for Taurus. And this is a time that you are supposed to be kind of working on healing this deep subconscious wounding, right? With Chiron going through your 12th, this is a really good time to heal. But it's very triggering right now. And you've got the moon in the 6th house of your daily life and your daily habits and routines and work and the daily grind, all of that, right? So there's definitely some issues between your daily life and everything that's going on in your surroundings on your all day, every day, right? Specifically maybe with women, that is really, your relationship with women is really triggering this deeper subconscious wounding, and it's very painful. And this is also creating a lot of tension to the 3rd house, with the sun in the 3rd house, which could be a lot of issues with siblings, your community, cousins, things of that nature. So there's a lot of tension between all of that. We've got Saturn going through the 11th house, so you're not really being able to network or make as many friends right now, but the ones that you do are probably very important. And you've got Mars through the 1st house, so you're really motivated around your sense of self. You might be a little bit in your ego with that, though. Gemini. So Gemini, the moon is going to be in the 5th house for you, and that's going to put Chiron in the 11th house, and the sun in the 2nd. So what's happening here, so your Chiron, you might be coming up with some deep wounding around friendships, networking, your hopes and dreams, all of that might be being triggered for Gemini. And you might be kind of at odds with someone that you're either your children or someone you're in a romantic relationship or someone that you'd like to pursue in a romantic way. All of that, there might be a lot of tension there between your wounding around friendships as well, and then, this person that you're interested in romantically. And this is also causing a lot of tension to the 2nd house of income and material possessions. So you might feel a lot of tension on your income and like how much money you have based on the things that you're wanting to do regarding like your friendships and this romantic relationship or a relationship with a child. It might be creating a lot of tension on your assets, right? Okay, so Cancer, the moon is going to be in the 4th house, right? And Chiron's going to be in the 10th. And the sun is going to be in the 1st house. Yeah, so, and also for Gemini, Saturn's going through your 10th house. So there might be some restrictions around your career and your reputation, but you could also just be really building in that area as well. And there's a lot of action in the 12th house. So you might be isolating with Mars in the 12th, focusing on healing, or just really easily triggered right now. But yeah, Cancer. So Cancer, the moon is going to be in your 4th house. So that's, this is definitely probably issues with women or family or people that you live with, right? Where Chiron's in the 10th house of your career and reputation. So there's some deep wounding that's coming up around career, reputation, building status and your career in your life. There's a lot of tension between the home life and your career. And then there's also putting a lot of emphasis from these two places into your first house of self. So your wounding around career is likely creating problems or like being triggered by your relationships with people, with women and family, or people that you live with. And it's really kind of creating a lot of tension around your sense of self and your needs and your identity. So there's a lot of pressure there. Saturn's going through the 9th house, so you might not be really traveling, especially very far, like long distance travel may be very limited. You might be in a place where you're not being very religious, or you're being very disciplined in a religious way or spiritual way. There is a lot of motivation in the 11th house with Mars in the 11th, so you are really motivated to kind of network, to make friends, to pursue your hopes and dreams, things like that. Leo. Okay, so the moon's going to be in your 3rd house, so this could be issues with family or women that are like your siblings or your cousins or in your community, right? Creating tension to the 9th house, which is, this could be issues regarding like wounding, like religious wounding specifically, or wounding that has to do with long distance travel, religion, culture, things of that nature. Some kind of wounding around that is at odds with your relationship with people in your community, which is creating a lot of tension in your 12th house of the subconscious. So your subconscious is taking a really hard hit. So you might be feeling your wounding is probably really bringing up a lot of stuff from the past, from your subconscious, a lot of purging energy with this. There's probably a need to isolate, take time to heal, things like that because of what's coming up. Saturn is going through your 8th house, so probably aren't having a lot of like intimacy with people, or if you are, it's very like limited or restricted in some way, or very disciplined. You've got Mars in the 10th house. You're very motivated in terms of your career and reputation and what you're building and the status that you're trying to create in your life, though. Virgo. So with Virgo, we got Moon in the 2nd house. So we're looking at, this is over money. And this could be issues with people that you live with, or women, or family in regards to money. But the issue you're having in a relationship is with money. And it's also going to the 8th house. So this is probably likely like a marriage partner or someone that you live with that you like share money with, because the 8th house is shared resources, inheritance, things like that. So there's an issue, like there's wounding around inheritance, sex, intimacy, trauma, and shared resources, right? There's wounding around that, which is being triggered by the issues with your relationship with someone else that has to do with your income, and it's causing a lot of tension to the 11th house. So this issue with money is causing a lot of tension on your friendships specifically, and your networking and your hopes and dreams. So there's a lot of tension there. Saturn's going to the 7th house, so this could be a time when you're not having a lot of relationships or one-on-one relationships. You might be single, or you might just be in a very committed relationship and you're not really going outside of it in any way. Or it might just seem like that relationship is really intense and disciplined and kind of cold or restricted or limited in some way. And then you have Mars in the 9th. So this is kind of a lot of motivation around long distance travel, education, higher thought, religion, philosophy, things of that nature, right? Libra. Okay, so this moon is in your 1st house. So this is impacting you very personally, like how all of these dynamics, right? And with Chiron being in the 7th house, then that's wounding around relationships, specifically one-on-one relationships and fairness and balance and things. So that's being really triggered by this whole setup. And it's creating a lot of tension on your 10th house. So this is creating a lot of tension in your career, your reputation, and your status, right? Saturn's going through the 6th house, so your daily life is very restricted. You may be getting very disciplined with your health and habits, though. Mars is in the 8th house, so that's very feisty. That's good for sexy time. But there could be also a lot of anger and maybe even potential like violence that comes up in relations to deeper trauma, sex, and kind of those darker, more scorpion things. But it also could just be like fun time. Just things getting spicy. Okay, for Scorpio, so the moon is in the 12th house. So this is like you're very much focused on healing and spirituality, emotionally, but there's a lot of wounding in the 6th house around daily life and daily habits. So there's a lot of pain around that, around your health and habits and daily life. And it's creating a lot of tension to the 9th house of like culture and religion, philosophy, long distance travel, higher education. Saturn is going through the 5th house. So like love, romance, relationships with children are very limited or restricted in some way, or you're being very disciplined about those things. You've got Mars in the 7th house, though, so there's a lot of motivation for partnering, for marriage, for making business partners, interacting with the public, things like that, right? Sagittarius, you've got the moon in the 11th house, so your friendships with women are probably taking a hit right now, especially because you have some kind of wounding going on that's being triggered around like relationships, especially like romantic relationships. Play, things that have to do with children or your childhood are really being triggered with Chiron in the 5th, and it's creating a lot of tension in the 8th house of trauma, death, rebirth, intimacy. So that's kind of taking a hit with this. You've got Saturn through the 4th house, so there's a lot of limitations and restrictions in the home. You could become more disciplined about what you're doing in the home, though, but that's kind of heavy. And then you've got Mars in the 6th, so this is a lot of motivation for working on your routine, health, habits, daily life, right? Okay, Capricorn. So you got moon in the 10th house. So this is very much about, your relationships with women or most likely women, but in your career, though, like this is in your career sector. This might be women that you work with or that know about your reputation. And then Chiron's going to be in the 4th house. It's really triggering wounding around home, women, family, your roots, your emotional foundation. So this is some deep triggering wounding happening. And it's also putting a lot of pressure on the 7th house. So if you're in a romantic relationship, like if you're in a marriage or a long-term partnership or a business partnership, there's a lot of tension that's being put there with this. You also have Saturn going through the 3rd house. So this is very much about Saturn kind of limiting and restricting things with community, siblings, short distance travel. So you might not have a car for some reason, or you might just be like really restricted about where you can go in your community, things like that. Like there's just like a lot of restrictions around that area. You might also get more disciplined about how you interact with your community, with your siblings, with your cousins, etc. Mars is in the 5th, though, so you're feeling very creative, a lot of motivation and need for play, romance, things like that, right? Aquarius. So the moon is in your 9th house of religion, philosophy, higher education, higher thought, right? So this has to do with like religious, cultural people or educators, things like that, right? And there's creating a lot of tension between that to the 3rd house. There's some deeper wounding around siblings, community, short distance travel, transportation, things like that. So that's really being triggered, and then it's creating a lot of tension from there to the 6th house of daily life, daily habits, and work. So there's a lot of pressure in your daily life. And Saturn is going through your 2nd house, so you may feel very limited around income and your possessions, kind of creating more wealth and assets that may feel very limited at this time, but you're also maybe more disciplined with your money and income. But there's a lot of motivation with Mars in the 4th house around home, family, emotions, emotional foundations. Pisces. So the moon is in your 8th house. So this could have to do with women that you share money with. This could have to do with women that you're going to get an inheritance from, things of that nature, or women who have traumatized you in some way. And this is opposite the 2nd house. There's some deep wounding around income and your ability to make money and keep money and gather possessions is really being triggered, and then it's creating a lot of tension to the 5th house of romance, love, children, so it's causing issues in your romantic relationships, putting tension there. Saturn is going through your 1st house, though, so you're probably feeling pretty heavy in general, and having to learn to be more disciplined in how you express yourself and get your needs met. And Mars is in the third house, though, so you're very much more social, very much wanting to get out there and be part of the community, to travel short distances and just kind of get out and socialize and be about. All right, so that's our zodiac for today. All right, for my collective. Okay, so you're not feeling super empowered right now. So we're looking at, you may be feeling disempowered, feeling like you're not very grounded, not very rooted in reality and your ability to create structure and to have a say over, your material world. Maybe feeling a need to be like controlling, or a little bit like, too focused on power and control, right? Like not feeling in control. So you might be being a little over controlling right now. There might also be you might be more in your feminine, where you might be also feeling really passive and just kind of like you're just kind of letting things come because you just are tired of always trying to like make things happen. So it's working for you. Interesting. So it's working for you. You've probably had a relationship with a narcissist or someone who's really difficult. There's been times in your life where you've had to be really careful about what you say and what you do. And you might be in a place where you're kind of doing that a little bit right now, and you're just kind of staying hush-hush about what you're up to because, other people don't need to know. So you're being very careful about what you say and what you do, maybe feeling like you're walking on eggshells, but this is actually in your favor and is something it's helping you with the situation. What's not working is there's some kind of skill that you need to learn that you don't have. There may be some kind of education or skill or hobby or something that you have not started that you need to. But there's the need for learning here. And because you don't have this skill set, it's making this situation more difficult. Okay, yeah, you're definitely being kind of so you're either being kind of deceptive a little bit fake, where you feel like you can't really be yourself and like can't express yourself and be authentic and feeling the need to hide yourself for some reason, or you're dealing with someone who is like that and they're being very kind of deceptive and sneaky. And that might be likely why you're kind of walking on eggshells, being quiet about what you say or what you do, because you're dealing with someone who doesn't have good intentions for you and is being really deceptive and sneaky. And so you're just being very careful about what you say around this person. Okay, subconsciously, yeah, you feel like you have so many responsibilities. Things are really heavy. You're having a really hard time. And that's has to do with that you need this skill set that you don't have. And so things are just harder than they need to be and feel heavier than they need to. Okay, in the past, it looks like you may have made a recent move or you traveled somewhere. And this could be farther in the past too. Maybe you moved away from some place where there was a narcissist and you weren't able to get like a good education or learn things because you were kind of caught up in this relationship and kind of kept you entrapped in their web, right? So you probably moved away from some kind of situation like that in the past. So that's part of why you know how to deal with the situation that's going on currently. Okay, so in the near future, it looks like you're doing a lot of planning. There's a need to plan, to really think things through, strategize, right? And it looks like there's some fear around getting some like bad financial news. So this could be you're waiting on a job offer, or you're waiting on a settlement or something, and you're just kind of afraid that you're just going to get bad news, that you're not going to get the job, that you're not going to get the money, you're not going to get the settlement or whatever it may be, or you're not going to get as much as you thought for the house. Like there's very much a sense of like you're afraid of getting bad news around your finances right now, right? The influence of family and friends, there might be a lot of conflict with friends and family right now. So this could have to do with, there's just a lot of conflict with them. There's also some kind of decision that needs to be made. But yeah, it seems like you're kind of at odds with people right now. Like you aren't getting a lot of support for what you're trying to do. The result of your actions, it looks like there's going to be some kind of delay. Like there's a need to move forward. There's a need for passion and desire, but all of that's being delayed, kind of put off. There's obstacles, things in the way, maybe a flame going out, things like that. The end result is you're focused too much on the physical world. You need to focus more on the spiritual world. Your spiritual self is out of alignment, and until that's kind of figured out, like, this is going to be harder than it needs to be. You're too focused on the finances, too focused on the money, too focused on the physical realm. You need to focus on the spiritual realm and kind of how this is affecting you on a spiritual level for this decision. And then once you do, you should have some kind of financial new beginning and things should start moving forward a little bit more smoothly. Yeah, although there's probably some situation that you need to tear down and deal with before this happens. Yeah, and you need to kind of detach. You're a little too deeply involved in the situation. You need to let go a little bit. Okay, so yeah, it looks like in general you need to kind of plan things out. You need to make a decision, but you need to think about it from the spiritual realm. Think about karma. Think about how this makes you feel. Think about, is this destroying your soul? Because you shouldn't be in a place where you're just unhappy. You deserve happiness and you should choose it. So if anything, any situation is making you feel like you have to sacrifice yourself, chances are it's toxic. All right, next I'm going to do a card pull for each of the zodiac signs. Okay, yeah, Aries, you're feeling the need to control things. You're out of your power, not feeling super great. Taurus, you're suffering emotionally, but like there's a lesson to learn here. I know it's really hard and you're not in a good place, but you need to understand like you're supposed to learn something from this. And I know that sucks to hear it, but until you learn the lesson, it'll keep reappearing. And that's kind of how it works, honestly. Gemini, you're in your power. You're like, yes, things are stable. You're getting good on your finances. Things are becoming stable with your family. You may have attracted a very stable, financially well-off man, things like that. That's super nice. Cancer. Yeah, Cancer, you're definitely on that. You need to learn about something. There's some skill set you don't have that you need to focus on. Maybe do some research. Interesting. Leo, you're going to get moving. Things are going to move forward. It's going to get better. This is very quick, fast-paced movement forward. This is a new move, a new job, a new situation. Virgo, you're definitely the one who's very much worried about the financial news right now. Your finances hopefully will get better, but like you're definitely worried about it. Libra. Okay, so Libra, if the finances have not been good, if the family life has been unstable, if the family life has just been kind of having some problems, it's going to ease up. It's going to get better soon. So your financial problems are ending. Things are moving forward. That stuck energy is moving on. Scorpio, you're really too focused on the physical world. You need to kind of focus more on the spiritual. You're a little bit out of attunement right now, which you do sometimes. But yeah, time to tap back into the spiritual world. You're a little too focused on the physical. Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius, you're stuck in some kind of karmic cycle. You're repeating a pattern that you've repeated over and over and over again. Time to take a look at it and figure out why you're repeating this and maybe stop. Capricorn. Oh, good things are to come, Capricorn. Good things to come. New beginnings. Things are getting better. Aquarius. There is some sense of regret here, maybe, for some reason. Really think through the decisions you're making. Is this really what you want? Because, yeah, there might be some regret coming up. Pisces. Oh, you're being very indecisive, Pisces. Make a decision, please. It's time for a new beginning. Take the leap. Make a decision. All right, and that's my zodiac reading for today, for July 13th through the 21st. And again, so if you are interested in getting a personal one-on-one reading, you can, schedule a one-on-one with me. There should be a link in the comments, and I'll put it in the description for YouTube. So you can click the link, the You Can Book Me link, and that will take you to my scheduling software where you can schedule an appointment with me. And if you want to do an in-person reading, though, you can schedule an appointment with me at Celebration. I will be there on the 13th, or on the day that this all comes into effect, for their mini fair. And I'm super excited. I'm going to be doing my astrology as a spiritual tool class that I do pretty regularly for like fairs and stuff. So if you haven't seen that, it's gonna be for free at Celebration this weekend on Saturday. And I'm also in the process of working on some new workshops, trying to get them up on my site. I've been having some technical issues recently this week, like a lot. So I'm trying to update the site so I can put my new workshop series up, because I am offering the astrology basics course as a series of 6 workshops over like a 6-week period. So if you are interested about learning astrology, I would check that out. I'll let you guys know more about it once I can actually finally get it up on the website. All right, bye.